Hello, everyone, and welcome to another awesome episode of Relationship Advice for Women. We always doing different segments, and to enter into 2025, we have begun the wedding experts segment. A lot of you all have asked about what I do, and I never really talked about it much, but I thought this was the best time to let you all know about this industry. So we have Mr. Nathan. Where are you coming from?
Sydney, Australia.
All the way from Sydney, Australia. And so where you are, they call it a Master of Ceremonies.
Yeah, I believe you guys still call it an MC. Over there, your wedding host. I think there's another term for it.
Well, we have lots of different terms. Well, I'm a wedding officiant. So
Yes, we
wedding
call them
planner.
celebrants here.
Okay, celebrants over there. Wedding
Yeah,
planner, wedding coordinators. Um,
same. Yeah.
so yeah, so just introduce yourself, give us a little bit of background about you, and then let us know how you got started.
Sure, yeah. So my journey begins, and thank you so much for having me on the show, John. I appreciate it. It's great to be here and to connect to my to. I feel like I'm connecting to my past because I used to live in the States. Actually, I was living in
Oh,
LA for a little bit of time when I was working for Princess Cruises when their headquarters were in LA. They've now since moved to Florida, but I lived and worked remotely and also full-time on board the cruise ship in the cruise ship industry for Princess for about 6 years, from 2015 to 2021. And in that time, I built sort of my ability to really perform and to entertain and to hold a crowd and to really capture an audience and mold their emotions and take them on an entertaining journey from beginning to end and so forth. Pretty much everything that a wedding is all condensed into 5, 6, 7 hours.
yeah.
And so, over the course of that time, building upon a lifetime as a child, public speaking, debating, everything else in between, lots of public presentation. When I came home after having to return back home permanently from LA at the beginning of 2021, my brother's wedding came up. Well, it already was coming up. Actually, it got pushed more and more and more because of the COVID restrictions we had here. And so when I came home, I was actually able to participate and not only just be part of the bridal party, but I insisted on being their MC. And so I made it happen, of course. And it was funny because many of my family, and apart from mum and dad, and my sister-in-law's family and all that, had never seen me perform. I rarely posted stuff specifically about what I was doing on board, just because I was more in the moment. I'm just that kind of guy. And so many of them were not familiar with the fact that I'd gone through this completely radical change in the way that I was able, like the skill that I now have to be able to perform in front of people. And so by the end of the evening, I had countless people coming to me saying, "Oh, you got to do this as a job. You got to do this. You got to do this." So I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." So to cut a long story short, of course, from that moment, about 2 weeks later, I started the business, got the website made, offered myself out for a few free weddings just to get some content driven and to get some runs on the board. And at the end of that year, we also had a massive lockdown the second time after, which really disrupted the beginning of my business. But to give you some idea of sort of how things have gone for me, just speaking in the wedding space, let alone the corporate stuff I do, I did about 6 weddings that year. In
Mhm.
2021, I did 50 into 22. 23, I did 65 weddings, and this year I'm about to tip 50 as well. But I increased my prices significantly over
Okay.
from the course of 22 to 23. So it's sort of nicely balanced out in terms of, working
Yeah.
a little less, but getting a
Yes.
lot more monetary
Yes.
value for the premium offering that I have. So yeah, it's been a journey. I'm about to hit. I think I've got 100 and just past 160, and I'll be ending this year with 162 under my belt in 3 years. So
Okay, that's awesome. So I just wanted to get the timeline again. You said you began working on Princess Cruise between, was it 2015?
yes, January 3rd, 2015, about to come up to my 10-year anniversary, and that'll be
Wow.
today. I'm celebrating. I'm turning everything off. I mean, obviously, I'm on holidays anyway around that time, but I am not doing a single bit of work, and I'm going to celebrate the whole day. So.
Wow. I'm interested because, like I told you, I love cruising.
Mm.
How was that cruise life? And you were living in LA that for that whole time? So
Not the
when
whole time, no. So when I was working as a on board an entertainment team full time, I was still living at home. You pretty much you don't have to move over to the country, and in fact, it's not possible with the visa constraints to do so. So you come from your home country, which here is Sydney, Australia, and I did about 5 contracts. I visited, I did the Star Princess twice, which is now no longer with the fleet, the Grand Princess twice, and the Regal Princess for 1 season. And so it was an absolute whirlwind of a time, and it all led up to something that I never anticipated, which was getting on the radar of the corporate head office. And essentially, they headhunted me for a new role, which was to go around to every single ship, then to train and to audit and to help every single other person that was previously my role and all the cruise directors to become better performers on stage, and also built some of the largest game shows that are currently still at sea at Princess. So experiences like the High Seas Heist and the Can You Survive game show are directly results of my input into that role and actually creating those experiences and then rolling them out to the entire fleet. So I've left a legacy behind, along with a whole bunch of other little tweaks and everything else and little things that I've done
yeah,
in time. But it was a whirlwind of experience, and I never expected the first day I got up on the gangway, first time to America, January 3rd, here I am rolling up the gangway in San Pedro. Could never have anticipated the radical personal journey and also professional journey I would have went on by the end of 6 years later.
yes. I mean, so that's really good. It sounds so much like so much fun, and that gave you so much experience and courage. I would say boldness.
Yeah, it really does, because the cruise industry, you sink or swim. And so, and I mean, I don't mean that in a really nasty way, but I mean it in the sense that people, you're either going to make it or you don't. You got to work 7 days a week. There's so many different influences of different people coming from all different places in the world. You obviously got guests that are exactly the same kind of makeup, and everyone's got differing sort of ideas of how they like to enjoy their once in a lifetime trip. And so you've got a lot of pressures on your shoulders, particularly in the roles that I had, because we would be the very, very front facing people. People knew us the most. We had a responsibility for being known and received well. And so there was a lot of pressure to make sure that you were making people's 7 days, 12 days, 14 days, whatever it was, and never miss a beat, never forget their name, never be unhappy, never be this, never be that. It was completely at the behest of everything that they needed and desired. And so we're obviously one piece of the puzzle, but we're a very large piece of the puzzle when it comes to their memories and experience. And so that pressure did get to some people that I used to work with, not in anything drastic or anything, sort of, kind of sad kind of way, just I think I need to step away and leave. And we were like, okay, well, it's not for you. We'll bring someone else in. And, other people were able to swim in that environment. So I'm grateful I was built for that. And I was able to learn and to grow and to become something and to mold this ability to capture people on stage. And it just sort of unlocked all these like mental treasure chests of abilities that I never knew I had. And here I am today, being able to use that on land to make an entire career out of it.
Yeah. So okay. So when you switched from Princess or the cruise opportunity,
Hmm.
you began Master of Ceremonies. Is it like a? Is it a? Okay. So is it a wedding officiant? Is a wedding host? I mean, a wedding planner.
So to be clear, yeah, it's a great question. So to be clear, when it comes to the term master ceremonies, it's an older term that is now usually sort of, mentioned as an MC. You would describe that person is, we're responsible for the entire vibe, energy, excitement, and flow of the evening, usually at the reception. A
Okay.
celebrant or officiant is responsible for the actual marrying of, as you know, is the marrying of a couple. Whereas you sort of have to switch the hats, because many celebrants like to offer the dual role, and some do it better than others, I must argue. But you have to sort of switch the hat, because a lot of people think you can, if someone's got a microphone, oh, well, they could also do our announcements as well. But
Mhm.
what couples really miss out on, and this is a hugely critical thing, that because I know that in the States there are some great MCs out there that we look up to and we see what they're doing, and I'm trying to bring a lot of that stuff here because I've had that experience in North America, so I understand why that works with audiences, and that's why I have a bit of a point of difference here in Australia because of that. But what I see a lot of the guys over there doing is that they understand completely that the moment someone gets married, which is a beautiful moment, everyone's clapping, they're crying, they're doing their vows, they're doing this. It's also such a wonderful experience, but it's very emotional, it's very heartfelt, and romantic, and that's fantastic. But that sort of just needs to sort of not be left at the door. But that sort of like more heartfelt approach, in my opinion, needs to be sort of, transformed is the right word I'm looking for, into more of an energy, excitement, a party atmosphere. The moment that you get past your photos, you come back and you're ready to be received into the, it really starts when people start doing canapes or any kind of pre-function. But essentially, the moment that you are welcomed into the room, that is the start of the party, that is the start of the show, and it should feel like a transformative experience, that you now can leave the ceremony behind. You've already signed the dotted lines, you're officially married, according to law and according to the witnesses of those who were there present to see you happen, and now it's time to celebrate that. And the whole reception should be a party from start to finish. And that's what I do. I maintain that energy. I keep that ball up. I manage the run sheet. I offer games and activities that are a part of my offering, and I have that energy go alive. I will stay to the very end. I'm on the dance floor. I'm doing line dances. There's anything, I'm interacting with people, anything that requires that I can possibly do to offer myself as a host, so that guests feel, and obviously couples in their bridal parties, that feel like they're actually really taken care of from beginning to end.
Okay, I'm getting it more and more and more, and that's that. So is that more like a DJ?
No, and this is the thing, that the difference between this is funny, because I know that this is a bit of a radical difference somewhat between the States and here, because in Australia we love to. There are two types of hosts. There's one which I like to call the professional announcer of information. Professional meaning that they're paid to do so and they're somewhat competent at it. And then, of course, announcer of information, that kind of goes self-explanatory. And essentially, the announcers of information are those who I would categorize as potentially some of the sort of the mid to lower range costing DJs, where they also offer the MC services, where they will do all the announcements directly from the booth. They will be saying, please welcome, da da da. Yeah, they might put a little bit of energy and excitement into it, but most of the time they're never leaving that space. They're not hosting the room. They're not engaging anymore beyond sort of the booth and the music that they're playing. Sure, they may be great at the dance floor, and that's obvious because you're purchasing a DJ, but it's separate to the experience that what I bring. And there are a lot of DJs that are in the States, and what they do is this, which we don't do here. They will have an assistant DJ who comes and will specifically do all of the music cues and support the main DJ/MC who's out on the floor doing those announcements and really hyping the energy in the crowd and really giving the energy that's deserved and the host in the moment. We don't do that here in Australia very much. There's a lot of people who just put that all into one. And of course, I'm sure there are people in the States who do that too. But I always advocate for having somebody who recognizes the value of getting away from the DJ booth, because it radically changes the ability for a crowd to really feel like the night is taken care of. If you can see somebody front and center, nice suit, nice dress, whomever they may be, ready to go, sounding confident, sounding energetic and excited, versus the guy that's stuck behind the booth over here and is like, oh, hey, hey guys, it's party time. It has a radical change on the way that the atmosphere is played out on a night. And if you consider how major headline corporate events work, where you have, and I'm not saying a wedding is a corporate event, but there are some parallels where you will have people all doing their own job. So you'll have everyone who is skilled in a particular arena offering their talents and skills to the whole. So a DJ will play the music when it needs to be played and operate the dance floor when the time comes. The lighting guys and the audio guys are operating here. The food is done here. And then, of course, you have the host who's also taking care of that solely within their own domain. That, for some reason, doesn't get always done in the wedding industry. And I encourage people to really consider the fact that if you have someone who is separate, who can really engage your guests, you're going to have a wedding that I guarantee you, and I know this, I can guarantee it because I have over 150 couples who've said so, that you will have a wedding that people will remember for a lifetime.
And so that's super interesting. Every time you explain yourself again or even deeper, I'm imagining what you look like. All right, so we went ahead and we're about to see what Nathan does, okay? Because I was like, I gotta see this. This is, and I'm gonna have to cut this music off real quick because I need to see this. Let me get this pulled up real quick. Okay, here we go. All right, let's. Ooh, I love this. Beautiful. Okay, so we're about to see what he does real quick. Let me go ahead and press present or share screen. And is it the Ultimate Scavenger Showdown?
Oh yeah, that's the one. One of my absolute favorites to run. Such a good game.
Okay.
Pregnant friendly? No, we're not going to knock you out. No, of course not. This is rude. Here is that we're going to be asking all of you to go and get an item from the audience. Okay, guys in the audience, you will get your items back. Buddy, what's going to happen is I'm going to get DJ to play a track. I'm going to take a chair straight away out from the stage. It's very, very simple. You must have the item in hand. It cannot be your own. It has to be someone from the audience. You have to be back before the chair is taken away. First item is a driver's license. Go! Bye. Next item, I'm looking for a left-hand shoe. Go! Sorry, Jordan. Even Justin got in on that one. I'm looking for this is speed rounds. A napkin, go! I think you were a little bit fast and you were helped over the line. It's getting intense up here. Next up, a women's stiletto heel. Go! Speed round. I'm looking for an ice cube. Go! Oh!
You know, as I was watching that, I was just I wanted to keep watching it.
It actually ends really, really fun too. So I highly recommend someone look it up. And because
it was slowing down, I didn't want to. I think it was slowing down because we were on this, but I didn't want to mess up the presentation. But I just want to say, you look great. I mean, and that's how you present. I mean, you present yourself like on Nathan's website. When I tell you, he looks so fabulous. Like you know how people like that's not what I saw that's not what I was expecting when you showed me X, Y, and Z. Like that, like what you just put on, what I saw on YouTube, you looked just as fabulous as I thought you were going to look because of what you showed me initially. I mean, your presentation, I'm like, that what you do as an MC, you take away all those awkward moments.
And that's the key. Yeah, that's the key. Yeah. It's about gelling all that. Look, not every wedding has that game run. I have 10 of them, and sometimes, like I said, I've got the numbers. About 80% of my couples pick the games from me. And so when I'm getting the kind of couples that I'm attracting are the ones, and I do relatively high volume for the market that we're in. And so, I just objectively speaking, I'm one of the very few in the Sydney market, which is the biggest market in Australia for weddings, that, I do some of the highest volume out there. And it is still when I first came into the industry, a lot of people were like, "Oh, I don't know about this. Like, people don't do games at a wedding." And I go, "That's great. Well, in the States, they do them all the time, and they're absolutely phenomenal. And they really, really do exactly what you described, which is to take care of those awkward moments. But more importantly, yes, they're a great sort of, gel between the moments, 100%. But they also do something extremely critical. They also allow people to have something to talk about that goes beyond not just the moment that it's happening and it finishes. Like, no one really talks about the cake cutting after it's done. I mean,
Yeah.
it's expected. Whereas people do talk about the game that is played, or that funny moment that happened, when the segue that I did between a speech or something, or something that has nothing to do with me specifically because I didn't do it, but I've allowed the vehicle of the evening to be driven in a way that got us to a particular type of moment, which never would have happened if you hadn't got somebody like myself. Doesn't have to be me, but just like myself, who is carrying the moments that we're just allowing everything to flow. And there's also one other critical part. When you mentioned about being awkward, a lot of people come to me after having said that they have been to some extremely poor weddings, or
Mhm.
weddings that just didn't suit the vibe that they were going for. And I would say, okay, put my doctor's hat on, diagnose for a second. Okay, so let me figure it out. Did you have a friend? Did they have a friend MC do it? And 9 times out of 10, they go, yes, that was
Mhm.
correct. And I go, well, there you go. You've asked that other wedding that my couple has then come to me to fix. What they witnessed something that is extremely I don't understand this. They've
Mhm.
the couples out there will ask somebody to do a job that I get paid to do for a living, a skill that is, I've spent, 10 years plus knowing how to craft. And yet public speaking is one of the 75% of people in this world hold public speaking as their number one fear. But yet there are somebody in their guest account or their bridal party, whoever it may be, to do a job that they're hoping to make fun, exciting, everything else like that, when they're not normally that role. And even if they have some form of job that may somewhat relate to it, like, I don't know, a real estate agent or something, or a judge or something, the problem is you're only asking them to do one part of the job, which is obviously make those announcements. The things you can't ask them to do is everything else that I've done either prior to the wedding day, which is including things like doing the run sheets, giving the best advice possible, making sure every vendor
Oh,
absolutely
you're
knows it
wrong.
100, like all of that. They need to know all of that. But then also on the day, I'm coordinating with everybody. I'm mixing and mingling. I'm on the dance floor. I'm doing this. I'm keeping the energy alive. I'm preempting problems before they even arise. I can guarantee you, friends and family MCs will never do any of that. Why? Because they're not being paid. They don't want to do it. They want to actually have a good time. Why did you pay for their plate if you then ask them to do a job? So it's an uncomfortable truth, and a lot of people think, "Oh, I'm going to save money by getting a friend MC to do it because it's just announcements, quote unquote." But honestly, you are actually you're wasting money, because your photography team is now no longer prepped before you have to do a first dancer, for instance, or your DJ stuck in the bathroom when the speeches are about to take place, or whatever kind of thing that may happen relating to miscoordination because you can't rely on that friend MC, or just really cringy moments because that person's either too drunk or just is incapable of the pressure of the moment. So either way, pay somebody to do it. It'll be a much better day. I promise.
Yes, and I'm sorry. I'm like, my son is creeping up to me with this. I'm trying to hear what you're talking about, and he loves creeping up to me while I'm talking to somebody. So please forgive me for that. But yeah, and that's one of the things that people like. Even when I was doing a wedding today, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what was going on earlier. And one of the bride, she was saying how one of her family members, they said, well, your uncle's a minister, why didn't you get him to do it? It's just one of those,
Yeah, it's
it's
just, "Oh, okay. Yeah, sure," whatever. Yeah, and it
yeah.
becomes this afterthought that it blows my mind that my main competitor is are friends and family, like people who do not actually compete, like from a business perspective. Like, I have to compete against them, and it's all, and usually it's incredible too. It's like, oh, it's just announcements, and we only need you for 3 hours. And I go, well, look, respectfully, there are some people out there who may take that gig on. I say I don't. I'm only very beginning to the very end. That's the only package I have, because I believe you can only master a ceremony if you master the entirety of it. You need to be there for every bit of the experience. But I understand I'm now treading into territory that some in the industry believe there's some conversation about. So I'll
So you
leave it
have
there.
one package.
That's it, just one. You get me from the very beginning to the very end in terms of, if it's as an example, if it's an on-site, and this is why it does relate pretty strongly to my case, but as an example, if it's an on-site ceremony, once the celebrant/officiant is completed and you're married, that's when my job snaps in, because as soon as all the group photos are done and all that kind of wash at the end there, and everyone moves over to a pre-function while you're away with your bridal party doing your photos and so forth, I'm immediately engaging with guests. They are getting to know me before I welcome your party into the reception hall, because imagine this. I come in, nice flashy suit, but only 20 minutes beforehand. No one knows who I am. The venue hasn't seen me before. The DJ's like, okay, here he is finally, I guess. And I rock up and I'm like, hello, everybody. Like, listen to me now. Like, you got to pay attention and respect me. I'm here to talk to you now, and I'm the MC. Look at me. People are going to be like, okay, all right, cool. Whereas I believe in establishing a level of understanding and respect for who I am before being able to get on stage, and it has a massive impact from start to finish. So that's why I only have one package, and I encourage others who are not sure about whether or not that could work or not, and the impact that it has, to contact me if they're in the industry and to let me know. Or if couples are like, oh, really? Again, I'm always open for conversation about it, because I'm very passionate about MCs and hosts. If you're going to take that role on, you must do the entire journey, because DJs do the whole thing. The photography team most of the time do the whole thing. Your front of house waiter staff, they're not just clocking out, early before the end of the night. So, why is it that MCs have to then leave at the dance floor because there is nothing to do? I do so much during that time to reconnect with people after I've got off the microphone. I have about 3 games that operate around that time too, and they jump on the dance floor. I'm managing the end of the evening with either they're doing a sparkler exit or a tunnel exit or whatever it may be. Just being able to say, or get the stuff into their car if they're doing a getaway car or whatever it may be. There's or just shaking hands at the end and saying thank you so much. I'm the last impression that they have. There is so much critical stuff that can be done. It can have a huge impact if you're able to secure an MC who's willing to stay the whole night.
And I have a question.
Yeah.
I wanted to know, I think I wrote this down. Oh. Okay, let me see. My paper, it fell down. Sorry. Okay, so you mentioned earlier in the conversation, you mentioned lower cost DJ. And I was like, oh, I wonder how much an MC or Master of Ceremonies, how much do you charge if that's not?
No, that's fine. No, I'm transferred. It's on my website. So, so my and I encourage any vendor listening that should make sure they put their prices on. Again, another controversial topic, but I stand by it. I charge currently right now, as of December 2024, I charge, just to make that clear, I charge $1,500, including goods and services tax. I forget what you guys call it over there. Okay. But essentially, that includes everything. I have a audio guest book that I've created from scratch. I had an inventor build one, and so I have that in my package. I include all the run sheets done for them. I have unlimited meeting time. I'm there from the beginning to end. I will, there's a lot. I have discounts from other vendors that I've negotiated that get into that package. There's literally, I don't nickel and dime, because I think at the end of the day, I've noticed a trend, and I'm also a marketing graduate from my uni days, but I've noticed a trend in the industry lately that couples, particularly Gen Z and whatever the next one is, I don't know if they're ready to get married or not, but younger millennials and Gen Z are really fed up with A, not knowing what the price of something costs before you make an inquiry, and B, getting hidden fees or other things coming along the way afterwards. And so I would encourage people to consider more inclusive packages in terms of what I'm offering, what your one particular vendor's offering. And, if you do find someone that offers both, really ask them to give you example of their ability to do both. I find a lot of officiants/celebrants will say, of course, that they're great celebrants. They have a lot of content about that. They've got a lot of opinions about that, etc. This is all fantastic. Then you say, "Can I see your MC work?" And then they go, "Oh, I don't have as much of that. I don't know. I've got one photo, maybe. I don't. Do you have any videos? No, I haven't got any videos. It's really hard to get." And I go, red flag, because you should be able to see how
If
people
I
turn
have
into
to
that.
get, sorry. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're right. So no, at the end of the day, I highly encourage couples to be discerning when it comes to those who are offering more than one service. That is not to say that there are many operators out there that do offer multiple services very well. I just also always challenge the idea that couples should be not just looking at what the dollars recommend. Oh, wow, that looks like a great deal. Well, if it's a great deal, the one thing you need to determine is what their experience is in both realms. So an efficient/celebrant isn't necessarily a great MC. A DJ isn't exactly a great MC. A florist isn't maybe perhaps a great stylist. Like, there are a lot of assumptions that can be made because someone's offering another service alongside something that they excel at, and so it has this sort of secondhand wind of of opportunity, and it looks like a great deal. But
Yeah,
I would argue that people should always do their due diligence and make sure they can get content and examples of
yeah,
all services that are offered in order to ensure they're making the most successful purchase possible. There's nothing worse than thinking, "Oh, our efficient is absolutely phenomenal. Of course, they're going to be a great MC and host and entertainment, sort of keeping the vibe." And then they get past the moment, they get into the reception, and at best, they're relying on some of the old corny jokes, and they've got a bit more. They've got a very hands off. They're at the vendor table quite a lot. They don't engage with people. They're out the door as soon as the dance floor, they say dance floor's on, and out they go. Like, a lot of that stuff can really be upsetting, and if you don't ask for that stuff beforehand, you won't get. They won't give it to you. They'll take your money, and they'll do the job, and they'll pat themselves on the back, and you'll wish you made a better choice. So
yes. I must. I mean, especially when they're getting a service like you. I know one of my main things that I do are smaller, intimate weddings. I do larger ones, and generally, when I do larger ones, they do have the budget
mm,
for photographers, videographers. But like with me, I used to have someone come and you know really it was for my own, because I needed to have the content and things like that so I could show other people.
mm,
um I would have someone come and record, and of course the couple had the opportunity to see it, not necessarily have it because they didn't pay for it. But
yeah,
right. And so, like, as my business continued, right, I had ran a promotion. It's not, but they don't know anything about it. It's just something that I would share with them while we're on the phone. You won't find this on my website at all. That I will maybe record it. But the thing is, I'm recording this so I can have content of me speaking at this wedding. It's
mm,
not you understand what I mean? And so it only goes on as much as that, I'm doing this promotion, or as much as I need this extra content. Because the content that I had before, it was pretty good, but it's from like 2021 or something. And I just wanted to update it. And unfortunately, the one who used to record the ceremonies are no longer here. So just like you said, like when someone is just starting, they're probably going to be
oh, of course.
doing
Just
all of
starting's a
those.
whole other thing. And I think that couples are happy to there are many couples I know, like, as an example, I've been married once, and when we were sourcing a videographer, because I was like, yeah, I kind of want video. Like, I want that. And yeah, my ex-wife was like, oh yeah, I guess like photography is more important, so I'll pay for that, and then you go source a videographer. I was like, okay. Now I managed to find a team of people who were two guys, really great guys. They were willing to do everything I'd said. I had a really specific idea in mind. I wanted my video to not be the same usual cinematic sort of thing that is done. I wanted it to be a more of a narrative driven video, and they were like so for it. They were two students just out of uni who were involved in a lot more movie and TV production, but they were moving into the wedding game and they'd had to dabble a little bit into it, but they were willing to take us on. And I said, after a very extensive sort of, interview experience with them, I said, I can trust you guys. And they absolutely delivered. But that was a very different time. That was before I was in the industry. And certainly, the budget was exactly what I was going for. I needed that balance between budget, but they were upfront. They told me, we're new, we're willing to do a different deal for you. And they gave us tons of stuff and it was great. But as long as vendors are upfront about that, that's okay. But if they don't specifically tell you upfront, like when you say, "Oh, can you send me content?" and they don't say, "Oh, I'm relatively new. Like, can you forgive me for that?" and that's why my price is reflective of that, etc. You're not giving couples the power to make those
Yeah.
decisions that they're
Yeah.
willing to take on the risk for, because it's the opposite risk is someone purchases at a price at my range or even higher, and they're
Mhm.
obviously they're risking their bank account for the sake of the opportunity that I'm offering them in terms of what I know I can deliver. But for someone who is newer, has less content, has less sort of guarantee on the service they provide, yeah, you're taking on that risk that you're not going to get exactly what you're hoping for from them, but you are spending less money. But it's all
Mhm.
about vendors empowering couples and being as forthcoming as possible, because here's a key thing: there are tons of weddings out there, and there's enough weddings for all of us. And so at the end of the day, it is okay to say, I can't do this. I received a phone call directly through from a venue that I haven't actually performed at yet. It's about an
Mhm.
hour north of me, but I had worked with this person at other different venues prior, before she moved there. And so the coordinator called me up directly for a wedding that's happening in January. So it's January 2025. So it's only about 5-6 weeks away at best, more less than that, I think now.
Mhm.
And she said, "Look, I trust what you do, so I know you're great. Their budget's only really around 700, 800. Can you do that?" And I said, "Well, first, I'm actually not available. Unfortunately, I've got something else on." But I said, "Look, that's half my rate. I wouldn't have been able to accommodate them, but I do have two guys that I'm currently training right now who
Mhm.
I can absolutely recommend, and they are." They're going to be supported by me, and I'll be able to help them to get a last minute booking sorted out. And that's their vibe. And so happy days, worked out, all good. And so there's weddings for everybody, there's work for everyone, and you, as a couple, you just need to figure out what's most important to you. Do you want the security and satisfaction knowing that the people you're purchasing to have on the day are extremely competent, maybe well awarded, maybe well regarded in terms of testimonials and reviews, have a big footprint digitally online, have great content, and you're getting somebody who is relatively really well regarded, and you're willing to pay that money for that experience? Or are you prepared to make some sacrifices in terms of those guarantees, but you're going to be getting a cheaper rate according with that? I'm not
Mhm.
making any moral judgment on ethics on that either way. I think it's about what people are most prepared to be comfortable with. Because I understand that cost of living is a thing, but I think also too, it's important to understand what really has an impact on a wedding. And I would highly, highly, highly recommend people check out the YouTube videos that I have on my site, on my YouTube page, only for the very reason of encouraging you to understand what an MC truly brings to a day, as opposed to getting somebody who is a friend or a family. It radically transforms the way people talk about the day that you're paying multiple tens of thousands of dollars for. And there's nothing worse than someone hearing on the grapevine that your wedding wasn't really that memorable. And
Yeah.
so why not make it a great night? Why not?
Yeah. And so as you were talking, I was wondering, okay, so that was a new term for me, Masters of Ceremonies. You lived here in the US before. Is that something, or, stayed for an extended period of time? Is that something that people in the US do, a Master of Ceremonies?
Yeah, there are. There's a few that I'm in contact with on Instagram where we're connected
Okay.
that are quite prominent in the game. Again, look, it's obviously the United States and Canada has a lot more weddings than we do, just because you have guys much more for population, you have 10 times the population we do. But beyond that, we suffer from similar concepts that a lot of people, our niche still suffers from this idea that just anybody can jump on the microphone and do this
Okay.
work. So why would you pay for that kind of money? But I
Okay.
guarantee you, if you were to find and directly look up people who do exactly what I do, but in your local area, depending on where you are, I understand that the states, as I understand it, and also in my conversations with other people, that different states have different approaches to weddings, and particularly in the South, it's a little less common because it's more familial and communal in the way that the wedding is done. It's a bit more sort of everyone in for everything, and it's just a big party, and you party to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. You don't really need that structure formality. Whereas in the North and on the fringes on the East West Coast, it's a little bit more similar to that sort of formal style way of going about things. And so there's going to be a more of a concentration of people like myself who offer this service in those sort of like big marble palace style venues that are, like hotels and other purpose-built
Mm,
places. Either way, I would guarantee that there are going to be people around in the area, because I talk to them and they reach out to me and I reach out to them, and yeah.
yeah. And where do people find you? Like how do you use a Google, or do they
Oh
just
yeah,
find you?
absolutely. All of it. I don't know how I keep up with any of it. So people are welcome to search me on Nathan Casar, that is Cassar, Master of Ceremonies. You can find my website directly from there. My website has all my social links. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even though I don't want to be.
I
YouTube, of
understand.
course. It's just too many. It's too
Yeah,
many, and
right.
TikTok doesn't do that great for the wedding leads anyway. So
Yeah.
it's a whole other podcast. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, Pinterest. I barely use that. I don't care. Anyway, I'm in a lot of places, and people are always welcome to reach out at mc@nathancastle.com.au or DM me. I'd be more than happy to have a chat with anyone, even if
Yeah.
it's notwithstanding having to get work from you. Just simply, if you just would like to understand more about some of the games
Yeah.
and activities, I have an entire blog that goes through them. My YouTube page is
Hmm.
also available for people to check them out. But I get some questions here and there. People asking like, "Oh, how does this game work? And can you send me some files?" And I've said, "Yeah, sure." I believe in making sure that the industry or people who are, I just want to elevate weddings as much as I possibly
Yeah.
can. If I'm not a part of it, that's okay.
Yeah, and so before we leave, because I really appreciate, look, you've been working with me so much, like for real,
No, you're
and
all right.
I appreciate your time. I um I just wanted to know. Sorry, I'm sorry. I write what I want. The corporate.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned something about corporate.
Yes,
You said
yes.
I didn't
So
want to get into.
sorry.
You said I didn't even we didn't even I didn't even want to get into that. You
Oh,
mentioned something.
it's a whole other game, in obviously out of scope for wedding conversation. But certainly, if you can imagine, there's a lot of skill, like sort of transferable skills that go for, if you're a really good, competent wedding MC, it's very easy then to then translate into the corporate space. And often I would say how to relate this back to the wedding game as well, as if couples are looking for people who they want to trust, particularly because this idea that, oh, if I get someone external, then they're not going to know me, they're not going to feel like family. Again, my reviews say otherwise. But if someone's really wanting that trust, also see if they do other work outside the wedding industry. That's not essential,
Okay.
but I
Yeah.
but I would say, see how much that their career is invested in this path, as opposed to it being an extremely sort of side job that they just do on the weekends,
Yeah.
because it'll also dictate how much that you're going to get contact from them as well. I'm completely full time. I do over 120 events a year,
Wow.
minimum. And so because
That a
of that,
mixture of
like,
corporate and wedding?
correct, yes. And so because of that, I'm obviously, I'm busy, but I have all my structure in place to better accommodate that. But most importantly, I'm constantly on the microphone. I'm constantly sharpening my skills. I'm networking. I'm socializing. I'm getting to know the trends. I'm embedded in the space. And as someone that wants that confidence, well, they're going to get it from someone like myself when, the day before, or maybe during the week, I've done a major conference, or I've headed up a festival, or I've done a community event or a charity gala, or I've done some character work, or whatever it may be. People can be confident that I'm not going anywhere. They're booking in the next 6 to 12 months. This is a really key thing as well. he's not going to go anywhere as well because this is my life, as
Yes.
opposed to perhaps
Yes.
someone who could change their
Yeah.
whole job structure, get quit, and have to do something else. So
Yeah.
there's that level of confidence too. But again, everyone's different. The wedding industry is full of people who either are full time or those who are sort of dabbing their toes, and some in the middle is grey area where they really want to make the jump and they're a bit afraid, and that's okay. I was there. I went full time straight away, but I understand people how they feel about that. I get that fear, and so either way, just go with what's most important to you. Go with your gut. Do your research. Find out whether or not they have proof of what they've actually accomplished that you can physically see on the screen.
Yeah.
And if you like them, book them, and the night will be fantastic.
Yes. And I just wanted to state, if I guess Nathan trains, and it seems like a benefit of training with him, you can train virtually too, right?
Oh yes, yeah. I run master classes, and I'd be more than happy for people to reach out and to negotiate that as well. I'm beginning to
Yeah.
get that into my framework next year as well, on a more sort of formalized structure. Yeah.
Right. And I saw that you give away jobs that you may not be able to fill, like with your other two people you were training. I'm just saying that's the benefit to working with you.
Oh,
And
that, and I certainly I recommend anyone in the vendor space that, I have a preferred vendor page that's over 50 vendors
yeah,
across New South Wales, and so in Australia. And so I value good people who bring a lot of good things to the table and I get along with, and I'm not get along with everybody, but I mean, like, I value the wide diaspora of ability within the industry. And so, yeah, if anyone wants to reach out, I would love to have that chat.
absolutely. And one last question before we go. How do people from corporate find you?
Similar way through my website as well. Everything is
Mhm.
there. I have an entire other apparatus on my website, through my gallery, and also my service page under corporate services that goes through everything, shows all my other content that I have that's related to the corporate space and other past work. So I'm
Yeah,
continuing to bolster both through more gallery work over the Christmas break and so forth. But certainly I have I have a full media kit which they're welcome to also take on, which can explain the entire spectrum of my business in about 12
awesome.
pages, I think. So my past, uh, there's my past testimonials and podcasts, and
Yeah.
of course the logos of all the companies I've worked with as well. So yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and to share
I
with
appreciate it too. Thank you.
yes, my audience. It was a pleasure. Thank you all so much for listening to this new segment. I hope you're enjoying it so far. I certainly am. Remember, this is broadcast every Thursday, well, every other Thursday at 8:45 p.m. inside of the Relationship Advice for Women group on Facebook, LinkedIn, and wherever else I broadcast it. Until next time.